Correct posture when playing the violin is extremely important. The violin needs to remain upright when you're playing, about parallel to the ground. Bow grip is also very important. Make sure your bow grip looks like this, with the pinky on top, other fingers bent over the bow, and your thumb bent into the hair. When you play on the violin, when you bow on the violin, make sure you keep your bow in the sweet spot of the violin. So whether you're playing down here at the frog of the bow, or in the middle, or at the tip, make sure, and try to keep it in the middle, make sure you keep your bow right in the middle on the sweet spot. Also remember that it's helpful to angle your bow slightly towards your fingerboard like this. So this is directly over top, this is angled slightly. Before you start playing, you gotta tighten your bow using the adjusting knob at the end of your bow. Remember, the bow hair should be about a pencil width or maybe a little bit thicker in the middle part. You don't want it too thick or too tight because it will warp the bow eventually. Thus far in our violin lessons, we've kept our left hand up here on the body of the violin. From this point on, our left hand is going to be down here at the neck of the instrument because we're going to start using our left hand fingers to play some notes. A few things that are very, very important when you have your left hand on the neck of the instrument like this is to make sure you keep your palm dropped. Your palm should not be up like this. This is tempting because it's a really nice way to rest the instrument and you can take some of that weight off of your chin and shoulder, but keep your palm down like this. The reason for that is eventually we'll be shifting on the instrument like this. And if your palm's up, you can't shift. So let's start good habits right away. Keep your palm dropped. Your thumb should remain across from your first finger on the other side of the violin's neck. Your thumb should be about this far up on the neck. You don't want it too far back. You don't want it too far around. Right here is good. When you put your fingers down on the neck of the violin, you want to make sure that your fingers remain tall and strong. What I mean by that is the fingers need to look like that. So only the fingertip is the part of the finger that's touching the string of the violin. You don't want to put down too much of your finger because then you're going to play more strings than you want to. Just the very, very tip of your finger. Putting the tip of your finger will be uncomfortable at first, especially if you've never played a stringed instrument, but eventually, the more you practice, this will get more and more comfortable, and you might even develop some calluses on your fingertips. The first note that we're going to learn to play is the note E. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but wait, we already learned how to play the note E on the violin. It's the open string. You're right. However, there are multiple instances of the same notes on the violin. For example, this is a G, this is a G, this is a G, this is a G. Just like that example, we can play the note E with the open string. And we can also play it by putting our first finger, so we count our fingers of the left hand like this, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thumb doesn't count, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, starting with the pointer finger. The number 1 finger is the way we play that E note, by pressing the fingertip of it down on the D string, like this. Up close, it looks like this. Be really careful with where you put your finger. If your finger's just a little bit higher, or a little bit lower, it will completely transform the sound of the note, the pitch of the note rather, that you're playing. Make sure your finger's in the exact right place. There are a couple ways that you can make sure your finger is in the right place. One thing that's really popular with a lot of people is they'll put thin strips of tape around the neck of their violin in the correct place for the first finger, the second finger, and the third finger. Now, it's completely fine if you'd like to do that, but I highly recommend you don't do that, and instead you practice with the practice videos and do your best to listen to the pitch that I'm playing in the practice video and match your pitch with mine. What I mean is, if I'm playing this note and you're playing this note, you need to adjust your pitch by just sliding your finger back so that it matches up with my pitch. That is the best way to put your finger in the right place, and it's the best way to develop your ear as a violinist. Remember this week, as you practice and as you play that note E, keep your wrist dropped and only use the very tip of your finger. One more thing that's going to be new this week is you're going to have some rests in your music. A rest is just what it sounds like. It's just a rest. You don't play on the rest. So for example, this measure would sound like this. 1, 2, ready, go. So rest means you don't play. As you practice this week, a great idea is to not just watch the practice video one time, play it through, and then be done. The best way to improve at violin is do each exercise, and whenever you make a mistake, start over either at the beginning of the video or at the beginning of whatever number you're on, and try to fix it so that you can get your sound to sound just like my sound in the video. The most important things to remember while you're practicing is to listen really carefully and make sure you match up your pitch with my pitch. Even though you're going to be really focused on playing this new note E and focused on your left hand and trying to do a great job with your fingertip placement, don't forget the other really important things we've been learning these past weeks. Make sure you hold up the violin parallel to the floor as you play, and make sure you keep your bow in the sweet spot no matter where you're practicing this week.